When it's this hot, people try to escape.
Yes.
No, yeah.
For some reason. Dance competition, I see. They are fun. It's a lot of fun. It's fun. It was hard to me. Yeah, parking, I got a time limit, that's too cool.
She hasn't started it up yet. 5:59. And whatever, all right, meeting is yours, Scott.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Say good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, so we all on the same page here. I'd like to call over a joint meeting of the Norwich Public Utilities Board of Commissioners and the Sewer Authority for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. In order to effectively run the meeting online, I'd like everyone to announce their name and title before speaking if you are joining via WebEx. So at this moment, I'd like to move on to our 15-minute public comment period. Are there any members of the public here in person and or online who would like to address the board? I'd like to remind anyone who would like to speak tonight that there is a time for public comment, not a discussion or back and forth with the MPU board. Any issues raised by the public during this period will be considered by the board in consultation with the staff at the appropriate time. To be respectful of everyone's time this evening, any public comment should be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody for our 15-minute public comment period online or in person?
No one online this month? Okay, and everyone here is either staff or consultants who will be presenting.
Consultants, going online. So we'd like to move on for my public 15-minute comment period. And then we're going to move into the approval of the minutes. I'd like to now accept the motion to approve the minutes of the last regular meeting of the MPU Board and Sewer Authority meeting on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'd like to obtain a motion to move the minutes. We have Bob.
So,
Anyone want to second this?
second.
Stu. So we have Bob on the first and Stu on the second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, aye. All those opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes to approve the minutes of our May 20th meeting 2025. We'd like to move on to agenda item number 4.
First on the four,
No? Check. Agenda item number 4, information and updates provided to the board prior to tonight's meeting. Are there any questions for Chris or the staff on the material that were provided in the board package last week? Those areas are financials, leadership team template, the customer service dashboard. And tonight we will discuss the Enbridge resolution during the presentation. Is there any discussion or question for Chris or the staff about those materials from last week?
I don't think I can.
Okay, Bob?
No, I'm all set.
No? Okay. And we'll.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, on that notion, I'd like to move on to our CMAC report, which will be presented by Mr. Steve.
Nope.
No?
Yes.
No?
See, does yours not have it? Why doesn't have it? Wow.
Anyway,
Yes.
CMAC?
Yes.
Yeah, CMAC is here.
Oh, it's not here.
Oh, it's not there, yeah.
I knew it was there.
It's not there.
Get back here.
So I apologize. It's okay. There was no meeting last month.
Yeah.
Typically, I would call and let someone know that there was no meeting, and I did not. So there was no meeting of the CMAC, so there's no real meeting. Thank you.
Report is one for CMAC. All right, so with that, we'd like to move into our presentations, and Chris, who would you like to move first with presentation?
We'll start off with our wastewater plant upgrade, and Matt Ross will be providing that presentation.
Good evening, board. It's short tonight in the interest of the agenda, and unfortunately, we haven't had an opportunity to fly a drone recently, so we're stuck with my photos tonight. So, excuse me. Thick and sludge storage tanks. Again, this is the first facility coming online at the plant, or a new facility coming online at the plant, probably within the next 6 weeks. Well, they'll see some of the photos, but basically what I'm trying to show is the gallery space is being outfitted right now with all the equipment to serve that facility, maintain the sludge, and also transfer it to vehicles for hauling. So there are a series of startup training, field testing activities being scheduled as recently as today, and will proceed over the next 6 weeks. And by early August, we'll stop sending our sludges to the digester complex, and we'll begin sending them here, and ultimately move toward demolition and decommissioning of digesters. Next slide. After that, the next kind of big area coming online is a pair of new clarifiers and really two pump stations, one prominent pump station, secondary sludge in the foreground in the first photo. At this point, all of the mechanical equipment is into the two tanks. The contractor is waiting for some final components to build the bridges that allow operator and mechanic access to the drive platforms at the center of the tanks there. The below grade gallery space for the pump station is constructed, and the masons are currently on site erecting the first story, which will be electrical space and a bridge crane space that will serve the gallery below. That'll be probably late September, early October when we see those come online. And then one more slide, which doesn't look like much, but the admin and lab building is moving forward. There have been slowdowns on the admin building related to additional PCB contamination in the existing concrete that was designed to remain and as a foundation for the new admin. And then in the top photo there, essentially the perimeter grade beams for the new lab that will support the first floor slab have been poured at this point. Contractor back on that space to begin to prep for maybe next month we'll see the floor of the new lab.
Yeah, man, what is the brown up on the top photo? What am I seeing there?
That is actually just formwork for concrete behind. That will be removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a form, but I couldn't tell. It's like corrugated.
Yeah.
Or is that part of the design, or is that just?
No, I don't know why they got
flat on the side?
Yeah, it's flush on the
Okay.
inside face. Yeah, so I don't know why the contractor moved away from kind of prefabricated formwork that they have used elsewhere. They have carpenters building a lot of the formwork for the lab. I think that has a lot to do with different sloped faces for the entrance and other aspects of the structure, but it's temporary.
Just a form, okay, sure.
Yeah. And just a quick look at, look ahead through the next year. Again, early August, middle of the current quarter, we should see thick and sludge come online. It's a substantial change for the plant. It's a wholesale change in our solids handling. So there'll be a lot of activity over the next 2 months related to that. And then again, by hopefully late September, early October, there'll be a series of structures coming online to serve the two new clarifiers in that secondary sludge pump station, including a variety of distribution structures that are really just hydraulic control devices. Aeration tank 2 admin and lab are going to continue for the foreseeable future. You probably won't see this schedule change very much in the next few months. And then we're about a year out from transitioning our disinfection practice from chemical, using chlorine, to physical, using light. And as part of that, keep using the word complex, but as part of that final process, there's also a new effluent pump station that'll help basically with the plant's allowing us to bring more flow to the plant rather than CSO to the rivers. And because of that, there'll be a condition to it needs to actually pump effluent out of the plant. So, take any question to me. Yes.
Now that we're having a new plant, there's probably a lot of new technology incorporated with it, like PFDs and stuff like that. Now, I don't know what you have in your other facilities around here. I'm wondering if there's going to be any training available for your maintenance personnel to jump into this and hit the ground running, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of a series of activities that I was trying to describe will be unfolding over the next 6 weeks. Trying to encourage our operators and mechanics now to actively review the plans in their draft format before they get approved by our consultant and implemented by the contractor and their vendors. But yeah, entirely, there'll be discrete equipment training from manufacturers. There'll also be, I'll say, unit process training provided by our consultant on how everything functions together.
Now, as far as your technicians, I mean, I'm just looking at it because I'm an electrician, that's my piece of the pie. Who does your maintenance on there? You have like in-house electricians that do stuff?
We have electric maintenance staff. I mean, I think there's a threshold. From my perspective, it's still relatively new. There's a threshold between when our mechanical maintenance staff would seek or look to our electrical maintenance staff for assistance.
Right.
There's some boundaries there, but yeah, it's a.
I'd like to see, are they going to be exposed to this training as well as some of the aspects of it? Because if they know how it runs, it's supposed to run, it's a whole lot easier to come and try to fix it when you know.
Yes, no, it's entirely to invite those folks, including, there's also, we're talking about a lot of process equipment that is used to treat the wastewater. There's a lot of other equipment that supports the buildings that this process equipment lives in HVAC, electrical, INC. So I'm envisioning even some offering or extending this invitation to our field services staff in the Hagen service ahead.
Jerry, everything's going to be captured in an asset management program. So we will have all required maintenance as part of a software package that people will be able to use and track what they do and when they're supposed to be doing it.
Okay.
And it's something that, we're going to make sure that we have everybody trained, that needs to be trained.
When you had that incident where, you had the chemicals kind of went south or whatever, or some pumps or motors or whatever, he's by the harbor there.
That was a boiler issue.
Just make sure that whoever's doing the maintenance actually has a good idea of what's going on. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
We're also next month, Deep is going to be coming down, commissioner or at least senior management of Deep is coming down for a tour of the plant. And so we may be able to offer something to the board as well on that day when we do that. So keep everybody informed when that happens. And it's, we've gone from excavation to concrete. Now we're seeing a lot of steel. So it's, we're moving along and we'll start commissioning things in the next couple of months.
How are we doing in terms of schedule and our budget?
Schedule, so we just saw a new schedule update for the contractor about 3 weeks ago. It does have the work extending beyond the contract end is October of 2027. Their schedule currently is filled into the first quarter of 2028. So let's call it 6 months of probably overrun. There are very good reasons for that. And sorry, you asked about cost too. We're still in the black on cost. We recently had our 4th change order approved by the state, but at the moment we're still benefiting from some significant, value engineering concepts. So the contractor proposed early on and that have since been implemented that, amounted to on the order of about $2 million.
If we end up under budget, how do the savings get shared?
Well, so that just means that we close a lower amount and, we just don't borrow.
Okay.
We don't get to keep the money. That is correct.
Yeah, we see, we could reimburse it monthly, so
Yeah.
it's a progressive.
But we close on the final amount. Val and the whole accounting team goes through that with fine tooth comb. There's always some true up change orders at the end. They get it down to the penny, and that's when we close on the final amount.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt.
We'll move on to, the gas plant schedule, and, Barry will give us, so join us last time, and, hopefully you'll do a better job than Steve did last.
I'll take that.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's Barry Ellison. Just a quick status update on the gas grant. So, as you recall, most of you jury may not know, the project is really delineated to 3 phases. One is Asylum Street, one is what we call the NFA project area, and one is North Main Street. So on the Asylum Street side, that's made the most progress. The main is complete. That limits us from West Main to about Grant Court, a couple thousand feet there. That pipe is gassed up and tie-in work is started. Services are expected to begin in about 2 weeks there. So that street will be done this fall and paved before winter. See some good progress with that one. The NFA project includes Franklin Street, McKinley, Rockwell, Crescent. So figure right almost from the old Bees guys area up until NFA. That's the limits of that project. We've installed the main between Willow Street and Rockwell Street. It's not gassed up yet, but the main is in place. We're going to shift our efforts. In fact, it already started this week to in front of NFA to take advantage of them being on their summer schedule. So we'll install the main and get their services in the July and August timeframe. Be out of there before school starts in late August. The services that aren't directly in front of NFA, more toward McKinley and Franklin Street, will also begin in the fall. The first 6 months have been a lot of main installation. We're starting to see that wind down a little bit. There's a few thousand feet left, but we're about probably 75% of the main installed. So we're going to start transferring over to services. And then the North Main project that runs from Burnham Square and East Main Street goes all the way to St. Regis. So that's a good run there, 10,000 feet or so. We've installed the main between Burnham Square and 8th Street right now. That's not gassed up, but it's pressure tested actually today. Good success. And again, so we'll transition to services in the fall on that project as well. At this time, we're still on target to be completed by about the middle of 2026. And right now, the budget is in good shape as well, although a caution when we get into services, things can always change a little bit. So far, so good right now. Good questions? Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll have a presentation now on our sewer cost of service. Laura will kick it off, and then we'll have Nancy Lisinski and Russ Hisson from Baker Tilly to come in the middle, right? Yes.
So we have been working for the past 6 months on our sewer cost of service and our rate design. As we've done for the last several years, we're looking at a rate change for the sewer division for this 1 year. Next slide. As part of this process, we've worked with our consultants from Baker Tilly. I'd like to introduce or reintroduce to you because they were here the last couple of years, both Russ Hisson and Amanda Lisinski. They both have extensive history and experience in regards to cost of service, rate design, and they've been working with us for the past several years. First on the project for all 4 divisions, and in the last couple of years with just the sewer division. Next slide. Just kind of an overview of the current project. We are just focusing on the sewer division currently because we have a 3-year rate tracking for all other divisions. We updated the cost of service study that was done from summer of last year. The updates included our updates and changes to our expense forecast, the capital plan, billing determinants, our forecasted debt service, and other revenues. Included in the model that was developed with Baker Tilly. The changes include any of the changes that are associated with the wastewater treatment plant, the construction cost, the timeline, and the debt service. Rates were developed to reflect our cost of service. And again, because of the significance of the $200 million wastewater treatment plant, we are proposing a rate change as opposed to a multi-year rate track. And now I'm going to turn it over. Oh, one more slide. Sorry. Objectives of the project to meet our financial targets, return on rate-based debt covenants, internal policies and external policies, and then maintaining our cash balances. We want to implement smooth and steady increases that recover our cost of service over time. And we want to move our customers closer to cost of service over time so that we are recovering the cost that we incur in order to serve our customers. Now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to go over the process, and then Russ will go over the results.
Yeah, so sorry for all of you that have heard this the last couple of years, but I just want to go over a high-level overview of the rate study process in general, and then Russ will go into the actual specifics of the sewer rate study for you guys. So the rate study process involves 3 stages. First, we want to determine the revenue requirement, then analyze the cost of service, and then lastly, develop or design the rates. So for the revenue requirement, this will include, all the costs that it takes to serve your customers. So, O&M expenses based on budget and historical trends, depreciation, which is a reflection of the reduction in the life of assets. It also provides funds for asset replacement. And then the return on rate base, which is based on cost of capital, cost of debt. Usually it's around 5%. And this provides funds for debt service and inflationary increases in plant service. So if you have an asset today that costs $1 million and you need to replace it 20 years from now, it's going to cost more than $1 million. So that is, that'll help recover some of that inflation. The second phase is the cost of service analysis. And here you want to establish cost functions or groups to be recovered. You want to choose volume charges, organics like high strength, and billing and customer service charges. And then you want to allocate the forecasted revenue requirements by these functions or groups using the FERC method. And fixed costs are demand related, such as treatment plants, the charges it takes to maintain and operate the treatment plant, customer service and billing charges for staffing. And then variable costs are volume related, such as like chemicals used for treatment and energy to pump the wastewater. And after you have the cost classified, then you want to directly assign all the cost to the customer classes where possible. And then you allocate the remainder that can't be directly assigned using industry standard methods. And the third phase is the rate design. So here you want to review the differences between the cost of service and the revenues recovered using the current rates. So you then want to start moving the customers to the direction of their cost of service. So if you have a customer class that is lower than their cost of service, you want to increase their rates faster. And if there's a customer class whose revenues are currently higher than their cost of service, then you want to maintain those rates or increase them at a slower pace. The recommended rate changes will move customer classes closer to their cost of service and ensure you meet revenue targets, which Russell will discuss on the next slide.
Okay, so now we'll get into the specifics of it. I think I'm going to step in here because there'll be plenty of numbers to look at and I'll point you in the right direction. But when you're setting the rates, there are 3 main financial metrics that you shoot for. The return on rate base, which Amanda just talked about, how you set your operating income at a level to fund your debt service, and then replacement of your fixed assets that are aging out and they have to be replaced. Then you have your debt service coverage, and debt service coverage says for every dollar of principal and interest that you pay on debt, you need to earn an amount over and above that, a cushion. For the state of Connecticut, the coverage is 1.2 debt coverage. So that means for every dollar of debt service, you need to earn $1.20. What that does, it gives the bondholders comfort and, or the state comfort as well, that you're going to pay back your clean water fund borrowings and, you have that built into your rates, so you need to set your rates at that level. And then finally, cash balances. A good rule of thumb that the rating agencies use is to have about 150 to 250 days cash on hand. So I realize that the sewer utility is not going for a bond rating, but that still is a best practice in the business. And the rating agencies focus on these three areas when they're evaluating the financial health of the utilities. So these three things are baked into your rates that we're going to discuss here on the next few slides. So this slide is an operating summary if you do nothing. If you leave rates at the current level, the number that you key in on here is this operating income line, where for fiscal 26, the operating earnings would be about 3.4 million. But you can see that it deteriorates pretty rapidly as you go into the out years, as the treatment plant comes online, as inflation inflates your other operating costs and so on. So again, doing nothing is not, this would be the worst case scenario.
Does this revenue include the current increases that we've been talking about?
So this is based on today's rates. So that includes the rate increase that we put in place in November of 2024. Yep.
Sorry, thank
Next slide, please. And so your metrics, the three financial metrics that I just talked about, here days cash on hand, you start off pretty healthy, 400 days cash on hand, but again, that deteriorates pretty quickly. Debt coverage target, remember the state requirement is 1.2. So even if you don't change rates, the utility will be in non-compliance with the state requirement. So a technical default of your bond agreement with the state, and of course, that's a worst case scenario, which you would not.
I have a question. If we have to build our rates on 1.2% of the bond expense, and then the bonds are paid off, what happens to the 2%? The 2/10%?
So we build our rates, and as you can see, I think it's in one of the later slides. When we look at what the projected rates would be, or the recommended rates, you'll see that NPU's cash balances are forecasted to increase because of that. And that would be cash balances that we have on hand, and we would have the opportunity to use those dollars to reinvest into the sewer division. So I know we have several other significant planned expenses within the 10-year capital plan, within the long-term control plan that we're updating right now. So we would use those dollars to pay for those investments as opposed to having to get additional debt.
Okay, so that's the debt coverage ratio, doing nothing or keeping rates as they are now. And then operating income, we looked at that on the previous slide as well. So as you can see, it deteriorates fairly rapidly. So based on that, there's an adjustment needed in sewer rates. So the rates have been designed to move customers towards their cost of service, as Amanda just mentioned. Customers that are behind their cost of service, you bump them up a little more rapidly than the others as well. But the rates need to increase by 119% by fiscal 2028. Well, of course, nobody would like a rate increase of that large in fiscal 2028. When you design rates, there's various approaches that you take and attributes that you take. But the two main ones are, first off, is that rates have to cover the cost of service. But then also you have to take the customers into mind, where the rates should not have big spikes in them. They should be smooth and steady. And that's how the rates are designed in this recommendation here. So obviously the rates don't provide the revenue that's needed for operations, debt service, debt coverage, all of that. And the recommended rate increase for fiscal 26 is 17.3% as of November 1st. So again, that's a 1-year rate increase. And again, there'll be future rate increases recommended, but the rate increase for the next fiscal year is 17.3%. See what that does to the numbers here. So this is an operating summary at 17.3%. Again, there are some rate assumptions of increases built into these out years. as well. And so you see the operating income, never goes negative. It's a good metric, in regards to that. Here we're a little ahead of the curve, but, and on the back end, a little behind the curve. But again, the idea is that the rate increases should be smooth and steady, so not to shock your customers, but still provide cash flow to meet your debt service requirements, debt coverage, days cash on hand, and all of that. And so the metrics with the 17.3% rate increase and smaller increases on the out years as well, you see the return on rate base amount is fairly steady, varying to target is pretty well. The debt coverage requirement, this line here is where you would be with rate increases, the 1.97, so a little over. Again, a little over each year. And the days cash on hand, we start off with 500. And again, that debt service coverage will generate cash. And as was said, then you can use that on other capital improvements that need to be done, and you won't have to borrow for those projects. You will have cash flow that allows you to meet, inflationary increases in operating expenses, and then also covers the other projects that you need to do beyond the wastewater treatment plant. So the recommendation is that due to changes in cost, funding sources, construction timeline, and associated debt, they all have significant impacts on the cost of service. We just heard also that the timeline of the project changes a little, so that changes assumptions as you go down the road. That's why the recommendation is for a 1-year rate increase of 17.3%. And it varies a little bit between the monthly customer charge and the volume charge based on the cost of service analysis. But all in, the average residential customer will see an increase in their bill of $16 per month. And again, this will help you meet all your metrics, your debt service coverage, operating income, and cash on hand metrics that the rates are designed based on. And again, it promotes the financial stability while minimizing the financial risk to the utility. So you don't want to fall behind the curve on this. And the rate design looks like this. Up here are the monthly meter charges. See, some are a little higher than 17.3. Others are a little lower, again, based on those cost of service differentials. But overall, the customer charge will go up by about 16.3%. The volume charged by a little bit more. And the average customer's increase will be about $16 per month.
So, Chris, this is, what we had to do with the treatment plant was no different than any other town in Connecticut would have to do to meet the requirements. So, I guess other towns are doing the same thing, or they've upgraded their plant and we have no choice but to raise. And this is 17% per year increase.
Yes.
Yeah. At the end of 5 years, it's almost double.
Yes.
Okay, now, wastewater typically is the biggest bill people have, typically electricity is the biggest bill. But still, it's doubling, but as I said, every town in Connecticut is gonna have to do this at some point.
Yeah, and this, this should have been done around 2010, maybe even a little earlier. It was we're a year 40 in a 20-year plan. So we spread it out by an additional 20 years, and it should have been at least, done 10 years ago at least.
That was my other question. So the depreciation schedules are based on how many years?
So there is varying depreciation schedules for the plant. So we would have the structures, which would be about 40 years generally. Some of the equipment would be somewhere between 10 and 20 years, piping longer. So there's a varied amount.
Sure.
So it would be based on the useful life of those components. We will work with the contractor and get the schedule of values, go through that whole entire process. So very detailed analysis.
This one lasted, what?
72?
So about 50 years based on certain components. Some things have been replaced. So we had some significant investment with the digester and some other types of components. But we've been putting some work into it, but bringing, 1970s technology up to 2025 standards. It's a significant jump.
Oh. Thanks.
So just kind of to summarize this, we've discussed with Pat several years the impact of the wastewater treatment plant. It is the single largest capital expenditure for NBU as one item. And it's got a significant impact on the sewer cost of service. It's been delayed, as we talked about, and the costs have increased. We do have a fairly small customer base supporting this, along with the standard operations for an O&M cost for the sewer division to support this. The proposed rate design provides a plan to meet all of our targets and balance everything over time. It is in line with the same increase that we put in place last year. The results that we saw this year kind of just brought that forward an additional year. Next slide. So the next steps in the process, we would look to the board to set a public hearing for August 2026, August 26, 2025. And we would have to publish the notices for the public hearing, have that public hearing on the 26th. We would look to the board to pass a vote on the September 23rd board meeting. Those would need to be posted within 5 days and be effective for November 1st, 2025.
We'll have 2 months to ask additional questions for any, as well as while we have our experts here.
The public hearing here or?
It's here.
Like last year.
Meeting off of the public hearing.
How much of this is related to separating wastewater from streets?
Zero. So this will allow future expansions to address some of those concerns, but we are just starting our next update of our long-term control plan. And we'll be in front of the board, when, Larry, on that? Sometime in the fall? All right. Yeah, so we'll have updates on what the plan is in the fall. We've got to get approval through DEEP on that. And then we'll be communicating with the board on what the next steps will be.
So what you're saying is get into the meat and potatoes of separating
CSOs.
groundwater as opposed to our regular sewage there. There's going to be more increases.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's the wet weather train, correct?
Yes, that's one component of it. We're doing a lot of cleaning, we're doing a lot of lining. That also reduces the inflow, which reduces the amount going into the rivers as well. So there's other things in the piping systems, as well as if we convey it to the plant and put in a wet weather train.
I mean, it's part of the public process to have a public hearing. I understand you have to do that, but reality is we're under legal obligation from the state of Connecticut to do the treatment plant. And if 1,000 people show up complaining about the increase, nothing we can do about it.
Never mind that the plan is passed in useful life, but you can't meet the nitrogen removal goals that DEEP requires, so they're paying, we call it. It's a credit.
It's a credit.
$275,000. Increase. That's, those are costs that we're paying because this plan is capable of.
The septic system, which I just had to replace for $25,000, so I'm not entirely sympathetic.
Hey, work on your depreciating schedule, Bob.
So are there any additional questions or any additional questions for Russ and Amanda?
No, I think about the only, if just following Bob's, if 1,000 people show up and complain, we don't have too many levers we can turn. You could move out the depreciation schedules, maybe. And you can always roll the dice and things like that, but that's about the only knobs you have to turn.
Because of the requirements of the state with the debt service coverage, we really don't have a lot of options where we're at.
And depreciation is set by the act.
Well, and we do have to work with the required rules on that type of thing. So, and again, as we look forward, we are looking at what the schedule will come in for next year. We already know that there's a potential for an extension, which would then change our analysis. So next year's rate change may look different. We're also hopeful that it's not going to be as significant as where we are right now, but again, next year's analysis will tell us where that goes. And we are several years into the process. We have about 3 more years left, so it's going to be a process. Okay, thank you. Robert, Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we're moving from wastewater and gas back into gas. We'll have Brett and Terry talk about our gas supply contract and
It'd be the.
it's the AMA renewal.
Nope, the other one. Sorry about that. That's okay.
I have to get Blair.
Good.
Okay.
Awesome. Good evening, board. My name is Brendan Terry. I'm a senior financial planning analyst here with NPU. I also assist with the internal management of the gas supply in our assets. So we wanted to give an update to the board tonight and some information about our asset management agreement and a recent extension or renewal of our contract terms. And just for some background information, a natural gas asset management agreement is an agreement between NPU and a natural gas marketer where we will release all of our pipeline transportation capacity rights to this marketer. And in return, that marketer will guarantee the procurement and delivery of 100% of our gas needs, 24/7, 365, as well as issue us a monthly credit that comes across on our bill so that we do get some return on it as well. So, yeah, that's just that. Very good. MPU entered into a 2-year natural gas asset management agreement with NRG that covered November 23rd to October 25th. So the contract was coming to terms. However, within the contract, we do have 2 annual renewal options to exercise that are subject to negotiations. So we reached out to the incumbent NRG, asked them if they could give us a quote of what this, if we were to extend a year, what is that asset management credit? What is that value they're going to be returning to us? So they quoted us an annual credit of $3.5 million for the year. And in order to kind of test the market, just to kind of see where the incumbent was at, MPU, we reached out to the other 2 respondents from our last RFP to see if they could just dust off their quotes, provide us some updated values, just to make sure that we're getting the best deal still for our market without going to a full RFP. So the other respondents had provided some quotes about $2.5 or $3.2 million. So we feel that we still have the best deal from the incumbent. Therefore, we didn't go out to RFP. We're just going to extend the terms of the current asset management agreement and execute on the renewal term. And this renewal actually marked about 10 years in working with this firm. So we have a really good, healthy working relationship with them, and they've done good by us so far. So next slide. So as far as next steps, we are going to execute the AMA renewal proposal with NRG, extend the term 1 more year to October 26th at a value of $3.5 million over that term. We will continue to monitor and forecast our PGA every single month, and communicate any major changes or major forecasted changes to the board as they arise. And we'll also reevaluate, our final renewal exercise option this time next year, right? And then after that, we will have to go out to market to RFP. So there is a lot of play here. There's a lot of market uncertainty at this time. I mean, as we know, it's very, very hot right now. So there's a significant amount of heating demand, global conflicts, etc. So we will keep our eye on everything and report any changes. So, any questions?
Go ahead, Rob. I've got a question that sort of goes beyond this, I guess, but I mean, in recent years, we've had trouble, people in Connecticut had trouble getting as much gas as they wanted because New York State banned construction of new pipelines. And, I know that the gas companies increase the pressure in the pipelines to try to get more gas here and so forth and so on, but ultimately it was a challenge. And apparently just recently, the governor of New York has agreed with Williams, which is one of the gas transmission companies, to build 2 new pipelines in New York State to get gas to New England. Is that going to change anything? Do we know about that? Are there any
Well,
details?
we'll talk about that in the next presentation. We have the ability. And that is the next presentation.
All right.
We do have some, yeah, we do have presentation.
Yeah, we should change the order.
We will be going-
Hold on.
Yeah, we'll be going over all that sort of stuff, right?
It's sort of, not quite the same thing. We can wait till the next.
No, anything to do with the gas contract, please bring it up now. Now's the
Real
time.
quick, the asset management credit is the result of we have more capacity than we typically need. We have it because it's beneficial for other reasons.
Correct.
Okay, but that's where the credit comes from, is that we give them all of our capacity.
Yeah.
And they give us back the credit, but we have the capacity if we need it on the worst day.
Because we predominantly have provided heating load. We have to buy capacity for the coldest day of the year. So on a day, any other day that's not the coldest day of the year, we have this excess capacity that is not of any use to us. But power plants are buying our capacity today. Other gas customers are buying it when we're not in our max day. So that's where the value is. And it's kind of a black box behind the screen. They're doing all this work, right? And they're getting value, they're sharing the value with us. And so we, if ideally, we have same gas use every day, 365 days of the year. That's not reality.
I think the way I remember us discussing it several years ago was, we want the extra capacity. It costs money to get the capacity. And we sell as much as we can and get a refund. But if we didn't have the capacity on the coldest day of the year, we get walled.
Yeah.
So we can't get right.
What is that Algonquin penalty on if we are over?
The penalty is 3 times city gate, which we've seen the city gate touch $100, $120, $25 a decatherm. So yeah, it is, on a single day, you could be talking $500,000 expenditure where you bought no gas. It's just all penalty.
Okay. Versus a normal $3.
Right.
They
City
change,
can
yeah.
downside risk on the gas commodity side, especially in the winter. It's tough. Any other questions with the AMA or the extension?
And now, an exciting opportunity, Bob.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And you can chill here.
Oh.
No, you're good. So we would like to inform the board of an opportunity to purchase additional pipeline capacity on Algonquin gas transmission. This is the sole delivery pipeline of natural gas to the city of Norwich. Right? What has historically been referred to in some of the conversations we may have had as Enbridge's Project Equal has been rebranded as of late to Project RARE to signify reliable, affordable, resilient enhancement project. So next slide, please. So the Algonquin pipeline, NPU currently has just under 13,000 decatherms a day of contracted capacity on the pipeline. As I had previously stated, this is the only pipeline that's available to deliver gas to the city of Norwich. And it also provides us, direct access to low-cost Marcellus shale gas and also gas supplies from the Gulf. It interconnects with Millennium Pipeline and Texas Eastern Transmission Pipelines in the New Jersey and Pennsylvania areas. And that's how we're able to get that Marcellus shale up here through the Millennium Pipeline or the Gulf gas up here through the Texas Eastern Pipeline. Algonquin posted an open season for increased delivered capacity in fall of 2023. We had submitted a non-binding interest in some additional capacity to the tune of 1,000 decatherms a day on this contract. Can you go to the next slide, please? Just kind of wanted to show you a map of the Algonquin system. This is a really, quick look at it. You can see it on the western side. It extends all the way from about west central New Jersey, coming all the way up right through the heart of Connecticut, and through the tip of Rhode Island and out to Massachusetts. That circle down there in the southeastern corner of Connecticut, that is us, and several of those dots mark gate stations on the Enbridge pipeline system, 5 of which live here within our city. So let me see here. Next slide, please. So this is a graph just kind of showing you our current contracted capacity overlaid on top of our top 40 historical peak days. So all the bars down below represent how much volumes we pushed out on peak day, with our record coming in January 21st of 2019. I think last winter we had about 3 or 4 peak days in here as well. But as you can tell, on our coldest day or our peak day that we realized, we are fully at capacity. And that's not even a design day, which theoretically would be 0 degrees of an average temperature, which we project we would go beyond what our pipeline capacity limits are. That solid black line represents our current capacity, and that dotted black line would represent what our capacity looks like with this expansion capacity wrapped into our portfolio. So, next slide, please. So in regards to the project itself, Project RARE is designed to give Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island increased access to low-cost, reliable supplies in the Marcellus Shale region, while also enhancing deliverability down certain laterals of the Algonquin system. Some of the project facilities that are required during the scope of construction of the project involve some work around upgrading compressor stations and also upgrading some of the pipeline laterals, whether it be pickup and relay or some looping. And all this work is occurring outside of the city of Norwich. In regards to the project attributes, we're subscribing to about 1,000 decatherms a day of the total project. It is projected to go into service right now as of November 1st, 2029. The current negotiated rate is about $1.31 per decatherm per day, and for a contracted term of about 15 years. So, anyone have any questions in regards to the project itself?
Yeah, sure. We're buying capacity.
Correct.
But what if the capacity isn't used? In other words, do we have to pay for that gas but not use it? Does it just not kick in until we start to use it? How does that work?
Well, in the event, and we just kind of had this discussion with the last slide, in the event that the capacity is not used, it can be remarketed, right, through our asset manager, and it can be, leveraged for someone who does need it, right? And then that would be monetized, and that would be shared with us through the asset management credit, right? So there is some aspect of hedging that risk. Per you say, right, if you don't use it, there is still this aspect where there's another market of open capacity that does provide, some financial benefits. So,
Do we keep the LNG tank with this extra 1,000?
that hasn't been a topic of discussion that I have personally had. I know we always talk about it. The LNG very much is kind of a insurance risk, right? And it's very difficult to predict when is the market going to blow up, to be one of those $100 days. Where's our load going to be to where we're exposed to $100 days where it's economical to run the plant? The plant itself can, it could save us well over 6 figures just by running a single day. You know what I mean? Or potentially running for a couple days if the conditions are right and the work conditions are right.
But it's still, if you do all the numbers, it's still beneficial to have the tank rather than to buy more capacity.
I don't know if I'd be the best person to speak to it, but I do know that the LNG tank, the investment that we make every single year is not extremely significant, right? We have run the numbers maybe a few years ago, see what that annual investment is like on an O&M basis or on a capital basis into the LNG plant. And based upon that and going against like, well, how much risk potential there is on the market exposure, it really does pay for itself.
We've done some big improvements, with controls, with boilers, and with installation in the last few years. And so we have a pretty good, facility up there right now that's not looking to be very expensive over the next few. If we have a major expensive repair, we'll address it.
The good insurance policy, but on an ongoing basis, the LNG is a lot more expensive.
Always. And it requires manpower to operate, and the fuel costs more. And there's always, it's difficult on a real peak day to get transportation here too. So it's not foolproof, but we have storage in the tank. But when we deplete the tank, it's hard to get firm service for.
And the idea is you're gonna fill the tank when it's less costly
Yeah.
and use it when it's at peak. Cost of pipeline, so.
That's, I have a question is,
Sure.
does anything global with external affairs affect the rates? Or we feel like we should take advantage of this now, because it could be potentially costly later on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. I follow you. So the way that these projects work is that when you do execute a precedent agreement, you are locked in to this $1.31 rate, plus or minus about 15%, right? It all depends on how much the capital investment is going to be from the pipeline, right? Their current assumption, say, for example, is like, okay, this entire scope of the project is going to cost $100 million, right? And that means it's going to be $1.31 a decatherm a day for everybody. But there is a plus or minus effect that, hey, like it could cost us up to 15% more. It could cost us 15% less to construct these facilities. We would pass that additional cost or benefit off to the customer, but capped at that 15%. So if they go over and they spend 30, that's on the pipeline. That extra that delta above that 15% buffer, the pipeline takes that risk and you pay for that. So if things really do escalate, costs escalate, and they go beyond that 15% adder, the pipeline would be eating that cost, not the customers. So our rate is going to remain unchanged outside of that range of plus or minus 15%. Does that answer your question?
And the opportunity to subscribe to additional capacity is not something that comes along very frequently. So while we have this opportunity and being able to put that additional capacity in our portfolio, it's a good opportunity for us to take that.
The last time Algonquin did an open season that was available to us was over 10 years ago. And they thought at that time it may have been the last one. I think they feel due to the scope of this project, and the construction facilities that, and the administration, right, that's currently out there, this thing could have a lot better chance to move forward and get constructed, right? But where we're at now in this climate in the Northeast, we're always concerned that this expansion is the last, right? And customer preferences can change, right? Everybody in New England, consumers are still using gas, like it for heating, right? The heat load is still growing. We do have a lot of development, potential coming into town between Ogden Industrial Center, Preston Riverwalk, Freeport, McMorran, right, is vacant as well. And we don't have there is really not a lot of capacity available if there was a significant development, right? So that would put us in a lot greater exposure to those tail end markets of $100 days and stuff like that.
So that section, the anchor customer is not, but other customers are. Yeah, no, it's fine now, but our understanding of the potential customer, a large customer, is not a gas customer.
This is a capacity charge, this is not a cash charge. Is that
Yeah, that's capacity.
Just capacity, yeah.
I find capacity.
I was having a hard time with that unit of $1.31 per decatherm per day.
That'd be a great deal, if it was gas.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. To me,
Yeah. Brendan, when you look at our blended rate, how, just can you explain what it impacts our blended rates?
Yeah, so our current blended rate before this capacity on just Algonquin pipeline reservation charges is about 83 cents per decatherm per day. So this one being $1.31, that is very comparable to one of the last expansion projects we subscribed on. The AIM project, I think, came in at about $1.31. The Atlantic Bridge capacity came in at about $1.82, right? And I think when they originally were doing some of the open seasons for Project Maple, the scope was much larger. They were quoting $3, $4, $5 even for capacity. So, but it is really comparable. I mean, it is going to bring up our average to 86 cents per decatherm per day. It's 83. So not a very large jump, but it does offer a lot of protection. You know what I mean, for development stuff.
And this gets put into the other, amount of gas capacity we have, so that our broker would handle this capacity as well.
All that, everything. That's, yeah, the whole portfolio goes to the asset managers.
So, in 4 years, when this goes into service, we will go out and RFP for the new quantity, and this will be included in that AMA.
Yeah.
Right, you got one more slide, right?
We do have one more slide. Yeah.
I want to say, in 4 years, when this goes into service, is that what you said?
Yeah.
The in-service date is the 29th. Go back one.
Sorry.
No, I told you to go back.
November 2029. It takes a while for these things to be constructed.
Okay. And when you're talking about permitting, it takes a while.
Massachusetts construction. Yeah, that's good.
It takes some time.
There's also some additional benefits in that.
Yes, yeah.
So the next slide.
There are some direct
Read it
benefits.
this time.
Yes, to NPU from this project. I mean, this will, not only does it increase our Algonquin pipeline, but it increases the capacity for us to deliver more Marcellus shale gas, which is the least expensive gas we have access to currently. It also helps mitigate any price risk associated with load growth, whether that's new development customers or changes in current customer usage. And it also allows the potential for a new and upgraded Yannick Gate station. So this allowed for the opportunity for us to evaluate moving the Norristown Gate Station volumes and contracts or out of the Yannick River floodway. So this is that gate station. Go to the next slide with the picture. This is the
Dixie
gate
Donuts.
station right by Dixie Donuts. This is the January flooding event. At that gate station is right back there, that kind of aluminum building back there. So working with Enbridge, the pipeline, and subscribing to Project RARE, this is becoming a collaborative agenda item, is for us to try to migrate out of this station, move it up the hill, up on Barnsider, up on the Yannick Lane area, much safer. And also reduce our footprint. We go from 5 facilities we have to maintain down to 4, reduce O&M costs, right? So it'd be a good opportunity there too.
It's funny, you've got a natural gas thing over there, and you've got somebody with propane.
No, odor intake. That's from Captain, that's an odor intake. That front building is a regular building.
Just harmless, it's like the tank I have in my backyard.
Yeah. When you crack the valve,
You don't want to
you
smell
really
that.
want to smell. You're right.
Not concentrated anyway.
But for this to happen, Barry's got some distribution work that has to be done. That'll be coming up in the next few years, but it's a great opportunity to allow both to happen. Remedy a system that's not the safest and best location, and we'll, I think, have a much more robust system at the end where Barry will have more control over operating the new station.
So now should I ask about New York State and the pipeline?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, unfortunately, New York State banned pipelines for some time. And it is hurt the theoretical capacity to get to New York. And now apparently, through some deal between the federal government and the state government, they're going to allow Williams to build 2 new pipelines from the Marcellus Shale area through New York State. And it's going to supply more gas to New York State. Is that going to have any impact on us?
It very well potentially could. I think there has been some relief in the New York area where some projects have gotten permitted like that. That wouldn't necessarily be the first one. There was another compressor project on a pipeline that New York State actually commissioned. So the compressor station upgrade created additional capacity that could be brought through New York State. If you remember the repurposed Aramco project on Millennium that we're subscribed to, same thing. That is a New York-based construction project, compressor station upgrade that they are hoping will also get permitted due to like the changes in the political environment and natural gas in New York. I think the project you're referring to is connecting to Iroquois pipeline because it was like half a BCF a day. It was a lot of volume of new gas.
Constellation pipeline, I believe, and.
Okay.
And they're both being done by Williams. And I don't know if that means that we would be excluded from it or we could access it potentially or what.
It depends what it connects to, right? I mean, Algonquin is the only delivery pipeline we have. So if another pipeline that is further upstream, whether it's Millennium, Williams, Constellation, whatever, if it doesn't interconnect with Algonquin, you know, we don't really have any sort of skin in the game, or it doesn't really help us. I think what it does do is that if it is successful, it sets a nice precedent that expansion projects are moving forward, that maybe regulatory environments have changed, and it makes it a little bit easier for there to be access, you know, for gas in New England, because we have no choice but to go through New York. So New York is kind of, to a degree, was holding New England hostage a little bit in regards to pipeline capacity and leveraging domestic supplies, right, versus getting it from Canada or getting it shipped in via LNG. So I think ancillary, what could happen is that our maybe our assets or our excess capacity maybe doesn't have as much value because now more supply has come to the region. Right, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like we get monetized when we leverage that excess capacity because it's rare. Not a lot of people have access to it. More capacity comes to market, right? The less valuable our access becomes in the region. So,
All right, thank you.
Marcellus Shale, that's gonna be in addition to whatever's in that pipeline now? Or the Marcellus Shale gas or whatever?
sure. Marcellus Shale is it's the play that's referred to, that the shale gas play that's out in the PA and the New York region,
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
see
that.
that. I just researched it, said it has a capacity of 93 years. That's why I'm going with this question.
They're saying 93 now.
93 years now.
I think 5 years ago, that might have been like 130, 150. I mean, it changes all the time. I know. I mean, I can't necessarily speak to how much gas is there and for how long it will be
Well,
there.
that's not. You know,
What I-
that's that pipeline, I don't think any of, like stuff from down Texas will come up and everything else, so.
But Jerry, advances in fracking are what made the Marcellus Shale play available to us in New England for cheap gas, and it's closer gas.
Yes.
We started off without any gas coming from the Pennsylvania area. It all came from the Gulf of Mexico. We still have pipeline capacity all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. But this cheaper gas is closer in here. But the gas down in the Gulf of Mexico is also more plentiful because of the fracking.
I just learned something.
Yeah, it's, but when Marcellus Shale opened up, it was a game changer for how we were getting our gas.
There's supposed to be gas available in, what would it be, southwestern New York as well, where fracking could take place, but they won't allow it. So it's at least potentially more capacity.
That Millennium pipeline is really close to that New York border. It runs all the way across like that northern Pennsylvania line, and it has, you know, storage and gathering pipelines and stuff like that in that region. So it is really close. There's a good amount of gas. Last slide, please. So we just have a couple next steps. First, we're looking for board approval of the resolution to grant Chris the authority to continue to pursue the project rare capacity. We would then with that authority, we would execute the precedent agreements and associated documents by the end of the month and return them to the pipeline to express our interest moving forward. By December 1st, 2025, we will have to approach the city council to receive approval to participate in this project due to the 15-year term of the project.
As a board, we're limited to 10-year contracts. So by going to the council, we get 15. I don't see any issues with the council on something like this.
And then,
I've already spoken to 2 council people already.
and then I think thereafterwards, the pipeline will work with FERC in order to get approvals, permitting, construction, and leading to the inevitable in-service date of, estimated November 1st, 2029. Any questions right at that moment?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have actions after executive session. If you want to amend, good, go now, but we can also wait after executive session, do all the actions at one time. Purpose of the chair and the board.
What would you like to do, Mr. Bowman?
Well, it's here, same amount of time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, at least one of the actions would require discussion in executive session.
Oh, no, we have to do executives. So we would have to do actions after executive
Yes,
session.
yes.
I just had them all lumped in one. If you wanted to discuss this, we could now, but otherwise we just
Well,
wait.
you want to vote on the Enbridge now?
If there's any additional questions, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay, I didn't have any questions. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, it makes sense, I think.
I will second that.
So we have a motion to approve the Enbridge expansion project. First one is Bob, and the second one is Stu. At this time, motion has been made. Any discussions about that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So, there's a moment here. Going to move into executive session. Chris, who would you like to stay for executive session?
This, you can see your team. This one.
Senior team?
Yep, and then we'll bring people back in.
Before you run away, I will need your signature.
See that, don't worry.
Just saying.
You're
Don't just forget.
busier than ever.
Well, if you want to find that one, that's fine. I just need one copy. There's probably about 10 of them in the room.
So,
Yep. So, you gotta start recording.
so executive discussion. Officially out of in this moment. And we have,
We'll go to other business.
we'll go to other business. What?
Is there any?
Oh.
But we do have the action items to vote on.
Don't get that, we have one to vote on as well.
Choose. So,
Yeah, you can bring us.
Stu, for your service, we have something for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
It's a cake.
Thanks.
That's a cake.
Listen, say it's a kicker, but I will say it's something that is representative of your service, and thank you for being an amazing chairman over the last several years. Your service is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Tom, we did the best we could.
Can't confirm with the nine that's in the box, but I will say that it probably.
Do you want to do
Would you have that? Sure.
Most carry a pocket like.
The original Swiss Army.
Yeah.
This is a Victorinox, by the way, we've nothing less or winger,
Yeah.
Oh, the Victorinox?
the Victorinox.
Yeah. Those are the best knives right out of the box, the sharp.
Yeah, go with Boy Scout knives.
Yeah, I think this is something I hang on the wall. What do you think?
So true. What?
Whoa. You can throw it, you can see time fly.
Years of service as chairman of the City of Norwood Board of Public Utilities Commissioners, And sewer authority, 2025. Look at that.
Mike Garrett.
All right. I got a gift card here for 1,000 decades.
One free electricity bill, one free electricity.
There you go, there you go.
Good cards, that's easy.
There you go. All right. That's a very nice card. On behalf of the entire organization, we extend our sincerest thanks. Your outstanding leadership, unwavering commitment, and years of dedicated service as chairman. We look forward to another great year in your new role with appreciation. The MPU team, thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
Way to go, stay true to yourself. You did an amazing job.
Oh, yeah, you're doing great.
No.
Oh, good.
So far, so good.
You're doing a great job.
All right, so with that being said, I want to get you guys out of here, get people home to their families. So we got some action items here. I'll start off with action item number 6. Gonna have a motion to schedule a public hearing for August 26th board meeting on fuel rates.
Make a motion.
Jerry with the
I'll second.
motion and seconded by Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any extensions? The motion passes. Awesome. Moving action items. May I have a motion to approve the Enbridge gas supply agreement?
Did that one, we slipped that one in before.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the 2025 to 2029, well, time flies. IU union contract.
So move.
Motion made by Bob and seconded by Jerry. Any discussions? Any abstentions? Anybody opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Also, here we are, the ASME contract. I make a motion to approve the 2025 to 2029 union contract.
Make a motion.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Bob. Any discussions? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any extensions? The motion passes. Online, is there any other business for the MPU board to consider for this evening?
You want to discuss what you passed out there?
Oh, no, I think just very briefly,
Apologies.
Bill actually was most interested in this. And he's not here unfortunately, but he's a member of the Economic Development Committee. He just wants to sort of kick around at the next meeting, whether it makes any sense to package any of our unused reservoirs and some unused land into a deal that the state might want to buy. And the article there is about is a release from the DEP about how they just paid $4 million to Killingly to buy some wildlife reserve. And, you know, who knows? Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I mean, we do have, particularly for this, an extraordinary connection with Bill because he was in charge of DEP's land use for all of Eastern Connecticut while he was there. So he's a member of the family when he goes up there. But who knows? It might not make sense.
Yeah. That's, I will put that as a topic for the next meeting for economic development.
Yep.
Perfect. I guess my next question is, we do our July meeting?
All right, so to the board, there's nothing pressing that we need to do if we have the public hearing scheduled. It's up to the board whether we can do the July meeting.
You want to do that now, or do you want to wait 2 weeks and just send an email out to everybody?
Well, we could, I mean, if somebody says, hey, we need to have something on that agenda, we'll meet. If there's nothing, we can hold on for a couple of weeks and, in August.
I mean, you would know better than us, but
Well, yeah, no, we may not have anything right now, but I'm just saying, if something blew up in 2 weeks, if we've already. got
That's what he's saying.
Right.
It's giving you that out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So that's fine, but you wanna, all right, So you wanted to just say that we don't have anything pressing we know right now, so we can move to the August meeting. If something comes up, we'll tell you when you show up here in July.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, now I got it.
Something develops with one of our major topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so make a motion to postpone our July meeting.
Oh, no,
Oh, no.
no, we'll make that call in 2 weeks.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
sorry.
We'll make the call in 2 weeks or so.
But we don't,
Okay.
We don't need a motion for
All
it.
right, okay, no problem. So with that being said, is there any other business?
how about a motion to adjourn?
I'm about to go there.
Yeah.
We have a motion to adjourn. A second. All right.
Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate, we did a lot of business tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, again, you did a great job.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bob, you're like you're ready for the sun with that hat.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
You missed it. You got a collection.